Okay, you guys, today's cooking lesson is going to be chili, homemade chili. So I use a Dutch oven for mine. It's just a giant pot, to be perfectly honest with you. I put in about 2 tablespoons of bacon fat. If you don't want to use bacon fat, then use cooking oil. That would be the other thing you can use. And then to the bacon fat, I added about a cup of chopped onions, a quarter of a cup of bell pepper, and 1 to 2 stalks of celery. Even if you don't like those items, I suggest you add them because it makes your food taste better. Those are just some flavors that are there that you don't even realize, but they make your stuff taste really good. So we have to get this heated up, and you have to fry it until the onions are translucent. That takes a few minutes. Now, if I weren't doing this on a video, while my onions were cooking, I would be draining my can of black beans, which I already have done. And then also I would have peeled my garlic, which I have that already peeled. And don't put the garlic in with this while it's frying because it'll burn. The other thing I would have done is I would have opened up, I'm also using a can of, I'm using diced tomatoes with green chilies. I don't like things too spicy because I have a tender mouth, so I don't put a lot of spice in my stuff. It's highly seasoned, but it's not spicy hot. You are more than welcome. It's your meal. You want it hotter than that, add some spicy pepper to it, add a jalapeno. If you add the seeds, I'm told those are hotter. I never use jalapenos, so I can't answer those questions. Like I said, I got a tender mouth for pepper seasoning, so I don't put a lot of pepper in this stuff. See how this stuff is kind of frying, but it's not translucent yet. It probably will take 5 minutes, but I'll trim this part off. I'm also a neat cook, so as I'm cooking, I like to clean up. I don't like to have all my junk out. You're also going to need some cumin and chili powder. Today I'm making this with ground beef. I like to also make chili with a beef roast that I cut into cubes. I cube the beef, and that tastes real good, but it takes a long time for that to cook. Ground beef cooks a lot faster than the cubed roast beef. You could use anything for it. Chuck roast is my favorite because it's very flavorful. Do you see how the onions are getting that kind of translucent look? I cook on a gas stove, so you gotta be careful because the heat doesn't ever quit. Like on an electric stove, it comes on and off. It cycles through, but on a gas stove, it doesn't ever quit. So I have to continuously turn it down so that I don't burn my food. I wish you could smell this. It smells so delicious. Yummy, yummy. If you're not sure what I'm talking about for translucent, if you pick up one of these onions and you try to stick it with a fork, I'll show you that. If you take one of these onions and you stick it with a fork and it's still kind of crunchy, like this one, it's pretty crunchy. It won't go through it really easily. It's not done yet. Here's a bigger onion. I'm having a hard time sticking it in there. It feels crunchy when I push on it, so it's not done yet. I don't know if you can see how some of the onions, you can sort of see through them. Like this onion right here, you can kind of see through that one. And here's another one. So when they lose that white look to them, but that's still kind of crunchy. So I'm going to let it go. Same thing, you try the bell pepper. It's still a little crunchy. If you don't like all these seasonings in your stuff, you can put them through a blender once they're cooked, and then you won't, you'll still get the flavor, but you won't actually see these pieces. So if you have little children who say, I don't like onions, you could do that. My children had to adjust. They had to eat stuff like this because I wasn't doing that. See, this is a pretty big onion, and it's not quite translucent. When you cook them like this, you get a lot of flavor out of them, and if they get a little bit of a brown to them, it actually gives onion a sweet flavor, and that sweet flavor is what's great in your food. It makes it taste better, it makes it more flavorful. This is also a recipe that you don't want to make this and then think that you're going to eat it right away, because it's going to taste better if it actually sits on the stove and the flavors get to meld better. So I've made a spot in the center. I'm going to push the onions and seasonings out to the side. And now I'm going to take my ground beef, and it's just a 1 pound pack of ground beef. I had the 85% lean because I like a little bit of fat in the chili. It tastes better. As I'm putting the ground beef in here, I'm kind of mushing it up with my fingers. It'll be easier for you to break it up while it's browning, because you want it to brown. Same thing, it gets a good flavor when it gets a little bit brown. It just, it adds more flavor to your chili when you're ready to eat it. I like to use grass-fed beef because I think it tastes better. Plus, cows are supposed to eat beef, not corn, but you may have heard the water running. That's because after I pulled that beef out, I washed my hands with soap and water, just food safety. I don't want you getting sick. And then I take my spoon and I cut the beef up because I want it to be into small chunks. And I'm going to turn the heat back up. I had mine down to low, but I'm putting it back on medium because I want my meat to brown, and I put in that meat, it's kind of cold, and so it sort of made the pot cold, and then the stuff stopped cooking. If you don't keep cutting this up with your spoon like I'm doing, then your meat will be big chunks, which if that's what you like, they have big chunks. But I like mine to be a little bit smaller. You can use this chili, you can eat it like a bowl of chili, or you can put it on a hot dog. Another thing you can do is get a small bag of those, like a snack bag of the Fritos corn chips, and you can put the chili, just cut the top off the bag and put the chili in it and eat it from the bag so that you won't have a even a dirty bowl. Notice how the meat is turning brown, it's not pink. Since I got it pretty small here, all my stuff is small, I'm gonna go ahead now and I'm gonna add my garlic. Now I use this neat gadget, it's called a garlic press. And you can cut your garlic, but I don't like cutting things small. So I just use this, you just put it in there, push it down, and it squeezes out of the bottom, and then I just take the knife and push the garlic in. Same thing, when this stuff starts cooking, it is very, very aromatic. That sounds better than smelly, but it smells so delicious, but I love garlic, so. I'm using 4 cloves of garlic. 2 of them were fairly large, and then the other 2 were small, so since I like garlic, I use a lot. And then I scrape out all the stuff that didn't come out because I love garlic. You can also serve this chili in a bowl, and you can make like cornbread to go with it. That's something my family likes. And now I'm going to get the garlic, mix that in. And then we're just going to add all the other pieces. I like to use cumin. I think it's very flavorful, and I'm using 1 tablespoon of cumin, and it's heaping. It's not, for something like chili, it's not an exact science, it's just fun stuff. Chili powder, I'm going to put 1 in here, 1 tablespoon. If I think I need more, I'll put another tablespoon. I go by taste. If it doesn't taste right, I'm not very good about salting and peppering, but because I don't really like salt. But you probably should put in about 1/2 tablespoon, depending on how much salt you like. Mine was only 1/4 tablespoon because my husband and I, we don't really eat a lot of salt. And now this is nice and mixed in. And then I'm going to add a can. It's a small can. It's 10 ounces of diced tomatoes with green chilies. And if you notice that my thing slowed down a lot, so I'm going to pull my temperature up to medium. I don't think I have enough liquid in there, so I'm going to add a small can of tomato sauce. And the can of tomato sauce that I'm using is 8 ounces. If you like it more saucy than this, add more tomato sauce. And then the last thing I'm going to add is my can of black beans. I like things to be very thick. I don't like soups. I like things that are more like stew. I'll let this cook for a moment. And then I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to taste it. Notice that I'm not using my cooking spoon. That's gross. You got to use a spoon, and then this spoon will not go back into the meal because other people are going to eat it. I'm going to add another about 1/2 tablespoon of cumin because I really like cumin, and that's the flavor that I feel like I'm missing. So that's 1.5 tablespoons of cumin, a heaping tablespoon of chili powder. If you want it spicier, add more chili powder, add a jalapeno. but I already told you I don't really like things spicy. So there's my chili already made. It's already tasting pretty good. I'm gonna turn it down very, very low. I'll put a cover on it and I'll stir it a few more times, but technically you could eat it now, but I think it tastes better if it cooks for about 30 or 40 minutes on a very, very low fire.